This is Mark Evans. Welcome to Small Towns Unscripted. This is the infamous Tara Chelan to my right. My name is Russ McCulley, and that's Desiree Phelps and Nicole Turner.
Hello.
Mark Evans, thank you for joining us, and all the the huge notice I gave you.
Yep.
I think it was yesterday.
Few minutes.
Yeah, a few minutes.
That's all right.
Do me a favor.
I'm
So
spontaneous.
I think you're going to be you're a historian of sorts, and you're action-packed. Your family.
A little bit of both.
And, this whole podcast, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch any of the episodes or not, but it's really just about authentic conversations. People that have lived here a long time, people have moved here recently. And it's authentic, it's just about intertwining a community and hopefully getting to know people instead of them.
Right.
So that's really what it's all about. It's nothing fancy, but we just love to kind of put some of these stories in a historical record, and we call it Small Towns Unscripted.
Well, awesome. Good for you. It needs to be done. So, lots of people coming and going nowadays.
Well, I think your family plays a big part in a lot of fun stories
Yeah.
in this town before and now and hopefully in the future.
Sure,
So-
hope so.
Well, we'll bounce around a little bit, but I want to start out by telling you how much I loved your mother and how important she was to me. And
Great
if it
woman.
wasn't for her, I don't think I might not even be in real estate. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she was like an incredible mentor to me. And
Good.
I remember she walked across the street one day and said, "You're buying my real estate company today." I said, "How am I
Usually
going to
did
do
what
that?"
Bernice said,
Well, I'm going to show you how you're going to do it, and you're going to buy the building too. And I'm really have no money.
Now, wait a minute,
I'll show you how to do it.
Was that before or after she fired you that
She
one
fired
time?
me 6 months earlier. Actually, it wasn't.
Sorry, I had to bring that up.
Wasn't her.
He remembered. He just wanted you to say it.
I was kind of a prankster and the designated broker at the time. Didn't think my pranks were that funny.
Yeah.
So one day he said, "Got a minute?" I said, "I think you're a little crazy." And Bernice had Mark and Mitch Evans as kids, so
Yeah.
I didn't think crazy was a word that she would use because I'm nothing compared to these two. And then about 6 months later, she came over and said, "I think you should buy my real estate company and come back across the street."
Yep.
So I asked that same broker, "Got a minute?"
Yeah, that's
Well, work for
awesome.
me. And he goes, "Nope." I said, "Okay." That was like in 1999.
Yeah, well, don't feel bad. She fired me a few times, so
Yeah.
you had me come back. Well, I was all right.
She goes, "You made me money. That wasn't my problem. The designated broker didn't like you too much." No, it was fun. I was young and full of spirit. So anyway, I just want to tell you how much I loved your mom.
Well, thank you. Yeah, she was a go-getter and helped a lot of people out.
Oh yeah, Sears store. And
She was fun too.
so talk to us about growing up in Chelan. What was your childhood like?
Well, pretty busy. Mom and Dad were entrepreneurs, and Dad had the Evans Marina down there, and so worked that in the summer, and then he did construction in the winter, because back in the old days, when Labor Day weekend came through, it was like someone shut the door down at the tunnel, and there was nobody here,
Yeah.
In fact, I was reminiscing about a movie that we helped make called Madison in the early 70s, and I was telling some friends, I said at one point there was some of the storefronts were boarded up down here. It was really slow and so on. So, and there wasn't near the things to do for kids like they have nowadays. So growing up was pretty wild. Mitch and I were motorheads, so we were always into mini bikes, go-karts or something, gas powered and tearing around. So we spent a lot of time in the mountains, because we were always getting in trouble in town. So that's how our stomping grounds ended up being about a 100-mile radius. But it was really fun. And Mom having the Sears store growing up, we were the ones that had to unwrap all those catalogs and stuff all the little flyers in, so.
We've all got that memory.
Oh, yeah.
Sears Christmas catalog. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, what a big deal that was.
Huge deal.
Sure was.
Huge
Pre-Amazon
Dog
days.
ear in your pages that you wanted.
Yep. You can have circle anything under $4.99.
Is that right?
Everybody had their price point, but
that's
that's
fun.
great. And I remember walking to the back of that store, and
Oh, yeah.
your
Yep.
mom was right there always. So yeah,
Yep,
that's
always
great.
had something to do. When I turned 16, I was so excited because stepdad Roy helped me buy a truck for $650. And anyway, the first thing I did, Mom took me right down, got insurance, or made me go down and get insurance. I pulled in, went in, set up my insurance. They came out, and there's a ticket on my truck, parking ticket. I didn't put any coins in the meter first thing.
Rookie move.
Yeah, it was. And then next thing you know, Mom says, okay, since you have a truck, come on down to your store. And I didn't realize I was going to start delivering washers and dryers. And that was part of the ploy with Roy.
Right.
Hey, here's a cool truck you need to have, you know. So,
Yeah.
An angle.
yeah.
That's
So
funny.
in other words, Mitch and I were kept very busy through the years.
Now, did your dad, Norm, teach you about the motorhead stuff? Did he teach you how to work on
Oh, yeah.
hydroplanes? And
Oh, yeah. Well, it was mainly the rental boats and so on down at the Marina. He had a little store and pumped gas and so on and so forth. And in fact, that was kind of interesting when I got to first grade. I could already count change and tell time, you know. Heck, we get out at 3:30, guys, you know, and so on and so forth. So it was, we got educated really early in life and how to, you know, work and make money and so on and so forth.
good times growing
Yeah.
up, though.
Yeah, it was. We used
Labor
to,
laws in strict force there at first grade.
Oh
or
no,
in
they'd have been
count
arrested.
change.
Them folks would have been arrested for the child labor law.
Yeah. My dad was an orchardist, so we would have been arrested. too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
You know, you all do what you had to do.
Yeah, it was
So
great.
there's a lot of stories about you and your dad and Mitch, but your dad was one of the stories he water skied behind an airplane.
Yeah, behind a seaplane. It was during the Apple Cup races, and he wanted to go pull a stunt, so he went out and talked with old. It was Hank Harvey at the time, and they decided to pull a stunt. Problem was, the aircraft just lifted off the water, and so Dad was doing about 55 or 60, but he's on two skis, and then he hit a water ski that happened to be floating out in the middle of the lake.
Oh, like someone dropped one.
Yeah, they lost it, and he tumbled. So all my life, my dad was good at collecting stuff. So all my life, there was this busted water ski nailed to the inside of the old marina, and it said, hit water ski behind seaplane, broke 3 ribs, so on and so forth. Well, here's the best part about this whole story. I've seen it all my life. Dad got killed in 81. 1982, John Brownfield comes walking into the marina. Hi, Mark, how you doing? I'm doing pretty good. And he's looking at that broken water ski. Finally go, what's up? He goes, see that water ski right there? I
Oh,
built
no.
that in shop, and we lost it out there. I'd have never told your dad what he said. I go, no way, that was you. That whole time. So
The
it's-
stories we hold.
Yes.
Right?
it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so he took a tumble and broke some ribs on that one.
Well, that was a tough time, 81. You weren't very old, were you?
Nah, 23, 24, something like that.
In 81. So when your dad was killed?
Killed. I don't know this story.
You don't know about that? Yeah, he got murdered. Didn't mean to say that so bluntly, but yeah, he'd met a gal, and it was a terrible family, and they're mixed up in a lot of heavy stuff. And Dad wasn't one to get pushed around or told what to do, and there's quite a bit to it I can't really go into. But anyway, he one day up in Union Valley,
Oh, boy.
he tried to, he was wanting to retire. And actually, he was in this boat rental business, and the tourism was starting to get to him. Dad was quite the fireball, and he was getting a little tired of the guff, you know. It's just hard to take tourism sometimes. He kept begging me to take over the marina, and anyway, so he wanted to be up on his ranch up in Union Valley there, and just live the rest of his life. And anyway, someone come up there and shot him with a shotgun, killed him, and basically, this bitch of an ex-wife he had him murdered, and it was a rowdy family, and there was a lot to it. We
That's.
Whoa.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a
That's
tough
a
one.
pretty intense story.
Oh, it sure was. And then to get educated on our court systems and the things you can and can't say in court drove me nuts. You
Yeah,
know? And
it is something.
20-something years old, and I was a pretty bit of a spitfire, and wasn't really interested in hearing all the bullshit as far as the rules and regulations. You know, that I was kind of
Yeah.
pretty upset there for a few years.
Yeah,
I'll
very
bet.
emotionally, just
Yeah.
it's hard.
Charged.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just can't imagine. But
Yeah.
have you stayed here the whole time?
No, you see, that happened in 81, 82, 83, boat racing was big. I wanted to go racing, but I had to take care of the business. And Brother Mitch, he had the repair shop, and he went ahead and went boat racing, and it was really tough. And so by about 1987, a few years in, my aunt wanted to come over and take over the marina and do all that. And I decided, heck with it. I had a buddy over in Seattle building a brand new Unlimited for a guy, so he said, why don't you come over and help me do that? And I thought, yeah, I need to get out of town before I murder somebody. You know, it was just kind of... And
It's
so,
brewing.
Yep.
yeah, oh boy. It was a tough one.
Yeah.
So I went over there and started doing that and chasing construction, working construction, and started working on the race boats, and that's where I started.
So what was there was a time where the unlimited hydroplanes were really popular on ABC Sports and on national television. There was a big circuit. So what was
Seafair,
All of that. Yeah.
there was a whole circuit, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
and it was filmed on national television.
Right.
What was the heyday of the years for hydroplane racing?
Well, that's debatable because the 50s and 60s when Dad was running, Bardo and Thriftway and all these big race teams was really popular. In fact, right now my brother and I are helping a group out of Spokane rebuild the Miss Spokane boat that was
cool.
built in the 50s and 60s.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then when time went on, it kind of, if you put it on a graph, there was low times and high times. And then in the 90s, that was Mitch and my heyday. We had just a great time, a lot of money. We were getting paid well.
Is this like the Chelan hour
Yep.
days?
Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah. So I was actually backup driver for Chip. That's how I got my ride in the Budweiser. Chip got hurt.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, in Kansas City.
So I know of them because my mom went to high school with Chip's brother's wife.
Oh, got you. yeah,
Yep,
okay, got
Scott
you.
Hanauer.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, Scott. Okay.
Yeah. So Scott and Vicky, they were
Oh,
good
that's
friends of my mom. So we were
Yeah.
really close following Chip
Yeah.
in that era, and it was a
Oh,
big
yeah.
deal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, and he was he'd been doing really well in the smaller boats and so on, and yeah, then he was in the Budweiser thing, and then he started having trouble. He got hurt a few times, started crashing, and
Yeah.
it messes you up, and then his
It's a wild ride.
Oh man,
a wild sport.
It beats you up bad, and not to get into his personal thing, but I think it's public knowledge. His voice got really scratchy. He couldn't talk.
Yeah.
He got a thing called phonic dysphonia, and he will eventually lose his voice. In fact, I think he gets a shot of like botulism or something crazy,
Oh.
to calm it down. It's bizarre, yeah. So that's how I got my ride with him. I was
Yeah.
out of
That's
Kansas
fun.
City.
I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
fun.
yeah. He had a hard time. Of course, funny part about that whole thing, I was actually driving the KISW rock boat, and oh God, we were having a blast.
That
'cause-
was a big deal. That
Oh,
radio station was.
yeah, oh, they
Big
were huge
deal.
into it.
Yeah.
KSW.
Yeah, and that was the first year I think they got into the turbines, and so I drove for a guy out of Friday Harbor, and he leased a boat from Fred Leland, and I was the second boat on a team, and Pico came in. It was really big money and so on, and Fred says, Mark, okay, you can drive the second boat with Rick, but don't you dare pass the Pico boat. You cannot pass the Pico boat. That's my big sponsor. Well, I don't know what happened, but we got, all our parts were really good, and I was just driving like a maniac, so I was always driving up next to him like, I'm not supposed to pass you, but here I am. So,
Just letting you know I could.
yeah, oh
knock.
hell yeah.
Knock,
And so
knock.
anyway, I was at Kansas City. I kid you not, you guys. I got the inside lane on the Bud and the Pico. They're out there beating on each other, Dave Vilwalk and Chip Hanauer. And I hit the start, and I was just going to run them up and let up. Well, my throttle stuck. I went bombing through the corner, down the backstretch, past them, and I'm beating on the pedal
Oh
trying to get
my
unstuck.
gosh.
Yeah, next corner. Well, I ended up winning the heat. And I thought, okay, I won the heat, and I'm all happy or not get out, but I was going to get my butt chewed for Fred. Sure enough, I did. But anyway.
My throttle was stuck.
Yeah, yeah,
Not my
honest dude,
fault.
honest. He goes, yeah, right. He thought I was lying. for
Sure, sure, okay.
Yeah, but it was that race that the Budweiser guys came over and they were laughing at me, and the crew chief asked me if I wanted to drive the Bud because Chip was hurt and not doing good. So I volunteered and did that for a couple years and worked
And
out
I
really well.
recall, like,
So
Oh Boy,
great.
Oberto was a big boat.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
And that was, yeah, wow.
Tide. We had a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
big corporate sponsors, Winston and Budweiser, of course. And
Now,
interesting.
I heard a story, I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard a story when I was young living here that those 3 fingers were built for the hydro races here.
Well, that's nope, that's a mistake. Right where
See?
Sunset Marina is right now, my dad put that in for the Apple Cup races. That's where they had the Apple Cup races for 4 years. Of course, he did it with no permit. That was in 1956. This is why Norm Evans is part of the reason why there is you got to have permits and stuff. Right? A lot of rules.
Thanks, Norm.
Yeah. And he
Building
wasn't the only
docks
one,
on
man. There's
city
a lot of other.
property,
Yeah.
so on.
Yeah.
So forth.
Okay, yeah.
Marinas.
Okay, so see, I had heard the 3
Yeah.
fingers were built so that there was a place to park the boats where there was
Right.
no wind.
Yeah, well, they came later. So they filled that part in where Sunset Marina is right now. In 1957 was the first year, and in May.
Where'd they get that fill dirt?
Who knows? I got a picture of Dad with some old beat up dump truck. They were probably just good fellows were helping out. That was actually their land. And so there's chunks of sidewalk and Dad called riprap rock and just stuff that, people were blowing up to.
Yeah, again.
Yeah.
This day and age.
Well, I mean, not
Probably
totally
not
true
gonna
because when they
happen.
blew up the Kingdom, that's out in the Sound.
Oh,
Oh,
is
really?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, they used
And
that
then
for-
when they did the Denny regrade, which a lot of people don't know about, but Denny was a hill and now it's flat. They
Oh,
did
yeah.
that a very long time ago, and that's out in the Sound too.
I'll be darned. Yeah,
Interesting.
see. Well, you can't waste that good material. So that's why
Yeah.
that area. But then the three fingers came in later on that. And then, there was the fourth finger in there that got taken out.
Harriet Wilbur? Or Harriet?
Yes, Mrs. Wilbur, our
Yeah.
school teacher, got a little upset and sued the Gallaghers, and that fourth finger was taken out, and that's what started the
That's
Shorelines
because
Management Act. for
her
the whole
waterfront went away.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
There
We've
was
talked about that.
There was a
yeah.
dam, right? Basically dammed her waterfront, and then she
Yeah,
had a
well,
waterfront.
it still had water. They could get in, but it was just a big concrete wall. And then the way that was, it got stagnant, It was just no place to go and
I
blocked
think I
everything.
sold that house once.
Yeah, good possibility.
She was like in her 90s, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
would
a long
imagine.
time ago.
Yeah.
The greenhouse right there.
Yeah, there's greens.
Interesting.
And, yeah, Kitty and James still live.
And wasn't that the beginning of the Shoreline Management Act
Correct.
legislation?
Yeah.
It
That went
was.
all the way to the states or the federal Supreme Court.
I believe
from
so.
that.
I just know that I found out about it just a few years ago. One of our survey buddies that goes around sets up all our race courses. A lot of race courses they survey in so that we can have a record course, set records, and it's exactly in the same spot.
Oh, I see.
Oh, that's
Yeah, which
cool.
is hard to do with buoys in
Yeah.
a lake,
Yes.
but they do very well. And he came up a few years ago and said, "Mark, I've been meaning to tell you, if you want to become a surveyor, and you take the test, you've got to know this old fact that this is where
Oh.
the Shorelines Management Act started."
From Lake
and
Chelan?
yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't know
interesting.
that till
Yeah,
just
but that was
a few years
because of and I might be wrong, but it's kind of basically that's why you can't do that because there was no rules.
ago.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And that was the whole lawsuit around the fingers, and then they
And then
turned
the
it.
cabanas, no more building a cabana over the
Which,
water.
darn it, that's too bad because,
I
gosh,
know.
there could be some cool places built.
Oh
There.
my
Come on,
gosh,
you know?
I know, it could be
Yeah.
so fun.
It sure could.
Because
Yeah.
some of those places, there's nothing. There's no, it's just a, wall.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Well, speaking of filling in the lake, I sure upset Bub Watson one day. They were talking about all the traffic, going around the
Yes.
Manson. I said, "Well, hey, man, you should make a super highway down the Navarre Coulee and just big bridge over to Manson." Well, boy, did I ever get a phone call from Bub Watson. "They'll be coming right through my property. Don't be saying that."
Don't give them any ideas.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's
A bridge
hilarious.
would be fun, though.
Well, I always thought an
To link
underwater tunnel.
This
There you
side.
go.
That would just be the coolest thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They built some fantastic bridges and underwater tunnels around this world. So I couldn't-
what year was it that you flipped your hydroplane? I just showed Nicole the YouTube
Yeah.
video.
Which time?
Yeah, did you
Oh,
flip it
boy.
more than once?
Yeah, about 4 or 5 times, I think. Yeah.
wow.
The first one was Evansville, Indiana. I got inside the Bud and Winston and went storming in over 200. And Winston caught me and rode his rooster tail and went flying out. Thought I was going to land in Kentucky somewhere. And this was back when we just started putting the capsules, the F-16 capsules on and the air mass, and we weren't doing any capsule tests yet. So I'm upside down, and if you're upside down, you don't want to undo your belt and fall into the underneath the steering wheel. So it was quite
That's kind of
interesting.
got to be a scary.
Yeah,
minute.
after you've been, adrenaline rush doing 200 and going into a turn, big wipeout, and you don't know where you're at, and wasn't sure if I was sinking. The Ohio River's a little bit dark, and so I wasn't
yes,
sure
it
if I
is.
was sinking
Yeah,
or
which
not.
By
way's
dark,
up,
you
which
mean
way's
muddy.
down.
Yeah. But survived that one all right, and we raced the next time, and then went up to Seattle and got caught between two boats and went on my head, and again I was all right. And that one I came back and won. And it was just interestingly enough, we put everything back together and went out and won. And what was the other one? I did a big one in Hawaii. Holy schmoly! I was out qualifying, trying to set a record, and left the water about 215. And yeah, it was a big one. Split my shins open, ruptured sternum, and all sorts of crazy stuff. It didn't break anything. So I got back in that the next day and ran
Oh,
again.
my gosh.
Got
Oh,
second.
come on.
Yeah, but Monday
Sounds
morning
like
I was
bull
hurting.
riding.
Yeah.
I know, they're just
Yeah.
crazy. You gotta be a
Yeah.
little bit
But the bull
crazy.
riders got to get back on, man.
Yeah.
No kidding. But
I
I was
paid
hurt.
for my entry fee. I need to get on that.
Yes, right.
Now I'm gonna win because I just did this.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't like taking any kind of drugs, painkillers, or nothing, so I wouldn't take anything. But Monday morning, I probably would have taken about anything. Hurting so bad. But
Wow.
then in 2003, I wadded up really bad in Detroit and got hurt real bad, busted my right leg. And I remember when they were pulling me out of the boat, I saw my leg come around the corner, and all that flopping around, ribs and elbow and neck, broke my neck too. It was pretty wadded up, so that was pretty. That got depressing. I was told by University of Washington, a bunch of other people, "Oh, you're never lucky to walk, lucky to live, lucky to walk." Probably
No,
won't
they
work.
haven't met in Evans, have they?
No. And then,
No.
then that kind of got me wound up. So came back. Well, it took 5 years before I got back in a boat because they about cut the right leg off. They got that infection, staph, and what's that other really MRSA or something like that.
MRSA.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to give myself all the shots and all the rigmarole. So, yeah, but came back 5 years later and did it again. So it's all
You're
good.
crazy.
Wow.
Well, thank you. Take it as a compliment.
Yeah, because you have to be a little bit to do that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. You
Yeah.
know?
Really.
Well, it's addictive,
seriously.
right? Like the adrenaline,
Oh.
the competitiveness, of any high speed.
Yeah.
It's just adrenaline, right?
Yeah. I'm 67, I'll be turning 68 here in a couple months. And Brother Mitch and I just went up to Priest Lake, Idaho, and ran ice oval races on the snowmobile. I'm actually out there in one of the heats going, "Oh man, what am I doing?" still going, but I still
On
want to
the
race.
snowmobiles?
But I don't want to crash. I don't want to do the
Right.
crash thing.
Right.
You want to get you a go-kart and go back to your childhood.
Yeah, go back to the
5
beginning.
horsepower lawnmower.
Yeah.
There you go.
Rip around.
I'd love to do that too.
Well, isn't your sister's ex-husband, right? Kelly's, wasn't Bob into?
Yes, Bob
he-
Moore and my nephew Nick.
Yeah, they're heavy into
Yeah,
the
they're doing
go-kart
really
racing.
well. That's dirt track oval go-kart racing.
Yeah.
Gosh, I've been wanting to go see that and go watch them run. I haven't made it. They've gone.
Where is that at?
Yeah.
They got a little track in Spokane, but
Okay.
they've been clear back east, and
Oh,
we
yeah?
went down to Arizona here, their last one. So there's quite a
cool.
circuit for that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so you can race almost anything you want.
Yeah.
There's just all sorts of stuff out there to run.
So, have you or your siblings ever worked for other people? Because I feel like you're all kind of got that same entrepreneurial spirit.
We have, but it's a drag when you work for somebody else. No, it's we've all Brother Mitch. I think when he was just right out of high school, he worked for Tilley Tractor for a little bit. That was it, and he moved away for about 4 months. Yeah, I went to work for Evergreen Roofing, my first sponsor, and then came home. And he's been here ever since.
I mean, your sister's had a bunch of
Yeah,
things that she has started up, and
Yeah, she loves she's a go-getter and entrepreneur in a sense.
Yeah.
Her jams and jellies that she made there for a while.
yes, and your mom was still
Yes.
just rocking and rolling with her, helping at the
Right.
markets,
She was in
and
real estate too when I started. She was
Yeah.
selling real estate.
yeah, I mean,
Yep.
just a cool
Right.
Do
cool
what you
vibe
gotta
you guys
do,
have.
right?
Exactly.
Figure
yes.
out the niche and fill it.
Yep. And then racing, I wanted to race. Yeah, Mitch raced too, and so it's hard to work for somebody and race. But
Yeah.
fortunately, I was doing construction work, and it's real spotty too. So,
Right.
and a lot of the guys worked with me, real well, and let me go run and then come back and work and so on. And in fact, one of my most interesting construction stories. Where Seattle is, and then Federal Way. There's an area called Midway, the Midway Theater, and the Midway swap meet and all that. Well, the boys, I was doing some asbestos removal, making some good money, and they said I was going to Midway. And I thought it was down by the Midway Theater. Well, they handed me a ticket through Hawaii and sent me to Midway Island for 2 months. Yeah, so
Oh,
I
Wow.
ended up Midway Island.
That's way better.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So that was interesting, and did
Got
that.
to work there for a
Yep,
couple months. Very
Worked
cool.
for a mechanical outfit and the asbestos removal group.
Yeah.
And then rest.
So help me, because I'm ignorant with what actually goes on with a hydroplane race. I've watched like car races. So is it similar? Do you have like this pit crew that helps you, or is it basically you and your brother getting these boats ready to go, and then you jump in it and race it, and then you got to fix it?
Right. There's a lot of people. It takes a lot of people to
Yeah.
do this. So we have a big semi truck, and a trailer just to put the boat on. Those all have to be built and maintained. We usually have a truck driver, and there's been a few of us like myself, Mitch, and Mike Hansen, and a couple others that did everything. Chip, you know, he didn't do anything but drive, you know, and he was very good on the camera and so on and so forth. So, no, it takes a lot of people. I had a crew of 15
Okay.
Wow.
And they're sitting race side while you're out there on the water. So if something happens, that's who's taking care of you.
Right, yeah. And I have a
Okay.
radio man. As time went on, we got in the closed cockpits. We had radio men, so we'd have one on the up by the tower and maybe another one in the pits and communicating to get us in and out. Because once we went to that enclosed cockpit, got strapped in, vision was a little bit
Well,
shaky.
and when you're upside down, then how do they get you out? Do they just like a crew comes and gets you and like flips the boat
Yes,
over?
We have a full rescue crew with like a little LCM. The nose drops down, they come and get you. But in fact, I got it in March, go get recertified. You have to go to a swimming pool and put all your gear on, and they have these capsules, 2 different styles, and they throw you in the swimming pool, turn you upside down, and you got to get out. You got to let it flood. But what happens if you crash and land upside down, you cannot undo your belts. If you undo, he'll slide under the dash and get stuck. So you have to wait for the water to fill up. So you're upside down after crash. You're wondering if you have anything broke or bleeding, and you wait, and you got to wait for the water.
And you're
to
dealing
go.
with adrenaline,
Yep.
shock,
Yeah.
and now you have to have
Sounds
patience.
Yes, and then you know what got me in my first flip, as the water's gurgling up, I purged my mask and got that cleared, and then I started to let it bleed in. I thought, no, just let the air, you know, and then I thought, okay, they told us to be calm. Yeah, right. I'm starting laughing. Oh, be calm, huh? And then, what part of the book did they? I didn't read that part.
What
but
page
yes,
was that?
yeah. And at that time, we were just making it all up and just learning. So
Right.
and
So
you
the
get your-
person who wrote that had never been in the experience.
Well, they had heard all about it, trust me. So. And then we have a hatch door under our butt. We have to, it's got a handle, and you can open it up. So they can extract you out the top, you know, which is the bottom if you need. But,
I see.
Yeah, so you can, there's one when I flipped and one in Seattle where they're pulling me out. It's pretty graphic and shows them doing that. But you're supposed to just stay there and stay calm, wait for the water to fill up till you get buoyant, and then you can undo it and get the steering wheel out of the way. It's a quick disconnect steering wheel, and that's why I didn't like to wear too many wires or anything. They had these cool suits you could wear, but I didn't like wearing them. And so it's one thing to get you. And then you got air masks with your air and stuff, and you just try to stay calm.
Okay.
But at Detroit, when I crashed really bad, I was out. Yeah, but luckily I lit up right, and all I know is I woke up and these guys were in my boat, and I said, get off the boat, I'm racing, or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
That's fun. So,
Well, that's interesting. What if you get knocked out and you're upside down?
yeah, that's why our rescue crew is so good. They come and get you immediately.
Fast.
And there's a paramedic on there too.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So
And
it's
you guys build the boats as well.
correct. Yeah, most of the teams. There was Ron Jones Senior and Junior built boats, and but a lot of the teams would build their own molds, and we do a lot of our own work. I love to build the cockpit myself. I like to mount the seat and the steering wheel, my pedals and everything. So
This sounds really cheap.
Yeah.
yeah, it is not.
Holy
it is expensive.
So from go-karts and lawnmowers to hydro, you and your brothers,
yeah, but
or brother.
Yeah,
You
we had a
raced
lot of
cars too, stock cars, right?
Yeah, I did a little stock car racing up here in
course you
East
did.
Wenatchee, and
Of course you
yeah,
did.
Yep.
Fun.
Yeah.
And I tried those the open wheel Formula Fords, like I did that for a few races, and I almost switched careers. That was really fun to do that around Portland and SIR and up in Canada. That was really fun, but man, that was trippy. I was already so heavily involved in the boats, but I did a lot of that.
Already had your connections. And
So you're thinking too, I imagine, when you crash, oh shit, this is going to be expensive.
Yeah, yeah. And then,
Yeah.
Right?
yeah.
Like, uh-oh.
not gonna race next weekend.
I was actually pretty spoiled with driving for Bernie Little or Fred Leland, because their theory was, and Bernie actually said it to me at Evansville, Indiana one time, goes, okay, boy, either win the race or bring her back in pieces. You know, you either crashed
they
or...
wanted you going for it.
So your sponsors, if you had the right sponsor, the money was
Right.
It was there.
Yes.
Because they had the cash, they made their money in their business, and then they were just more passionate about it than it was really. Although when they were on national TV, they probably did get when it was really its peak, the sponsors got good advertising.
They sure did. ESPN, Speed Channel, we were on a lot of shows, and they'd usually get 4 times more than what they put in, on dollar value on TV. There was quite the...
Wow.
Yeah, there's a...
Do other towns have big events around their races like Seattle?
Yeah, so Madison, Indiana, the 4th of July, that's huge for them. Evansville, Indiana had a big affair, and a lot of times they would tie us in with events. San Diego is just fantastic. We're right by SeaWorld there and have all their
that'd
goings
be
on.
cool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Seattle Seafair with all the Seafair stuff
I mean,
going on.
that's just like legendary.
Yes,
As a kid
yes.
growing up, it was like Hydros and Blue Angels.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you looked
Exactly.
forward to both.
In Seattle,
Yeah.
in the 1950s when it started over there with Stan Sayers and Ted Jones, but there was no basketball, football, or anything. We were the sport.
Oh.
And so there was like 400,000 people watching there. 800,000 people in Detroit. Yeah.
What?
I've got towed in before, and I'm standing there just looking up and down the beach going,
That's
got to be kidding me. So
Whoa!
many people, yeah.
To put it in perspective, games have anywhere from, depending on the stadiums, like 15,000 to 75,000.
Yeah, and isn't the population of Wenatchee like 60,000?
Yeah.
And you had
Yeah.
800,000.
At one point, the highest amount that they thought was 800,000. Now, all free. They didn't have to pay. See, that's the problem with our boat racing. We could only corner a little bit of the market and there's some grandstands around the pits. It's so hard to harness a lake,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's You're outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we did race one time. It was really interesting as Firebird, Lake Firebird in Arizona. It was a pond that they built down the Indian reservation, and there was an island down the middle, and that's where all the famous drag boat races were. They brought us down. We ran 2 at a time. We couldn't run any more than that. We did kind of a bracket type racing there. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah, that was kind of interesting way
Yeah.
to do it. So,
Right. But it's
yeah.
not like a raceway. You're just outside.
Yeah, yeah. So lake, shorelines and people's homes and stuff. It's hard to
Yeah, you
keep
can't,
a
yeah,
monetize
race,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so weather dependent, I would imagine.
Oh, boy.
The
Yeah,
wind
we've-
picks up. And
Oh, yeah. I've been to numerous races, and we sat there and watched it blow all weekend. They canceled the race, and we went on
Shoot.
to the next, and so on. That's tough on sponsorship and the businesses and all the people, volunteers that are helping. It makes it kind of tough. So, yep.
So you and Mitch are racing this weekend. Snowmobiles.
Yeah, we were up Creek Lake. Gosh, below zero. I mean, here we are
yeah.
standing on 8 inches of solid ice, and I'm thinking, man, this sure isn't. But then, like you said, you rather be in 106 degrees and crawl in the cockpit of a boat, or get your snowmobile suit on, and get out on the track. But once you start up on a piece of machinery, you don't worry about if you're cold or you're hot. You just whether you're going to win or
You're
not.
going to get in the zone.
Competitive juices start flowing.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that's-
Mitch is kind of semi-retired now.
Me,
Mitch.
yeah.
So you got to get him out of the house. You got to go. Let's go
Oh,
snowmobile.
yeah. Well, he's a really busy guy, and he's got the blue chip vintage boat, and he's building his 4th Allison engine, V12 Allison, and
Wow.
those are really rare and hard to get parts for, but he's doing that. And his daughter and son-in-law have RJ's Marines. So
Right,
he helps
yeah.
them.
Yep, that's my
Yep.
girlfriend and my 4-H
Yeah,
leader.
yeah,
and-
there you go.
Cool.
So Mitch is over there helping them whenever they need and so on. So yeah,
Oh,
he
love
keeps really
that.
busy.
So still into the motor gearhead phase, going
Yeah.
down the family line.
Yeah. Oh, these electric cars and all this stuff I'm not too sure about, but I rode one of those Segway things with the big wheels on it.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
are fun as can be, so, I don't know. Gas engine might even be better. Don't see
Right,
anybody
really
doing
get that thing going.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys have, well, everyone I've ever met and known in your family has been a good time.
Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate
Real
it.
fun, real good people.
Yep.
Says a lot about your folks. And
Well, thank you. Yeah, they were brought up old school, and they pretty much, made sure we mind our manners and, respected things and so on. And of course, Dad, with being the motorhead, it was fun to operate all sorts of equipment and do that. It was a kick.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember I graduated high school out here in Manson in '88, and remember my dad always commenting about the Evans boys. Oh, that's an Evans boys boat, or the Evans boys are racing this weekend, or the Evans boys did good in Spokane or Seattle this weekend. Or I think a lot of people in this valley kept track of you throughout the years of all the
Yeah.
things you did, and
Yeah,
took a lot of pride in what you guys were doing.
Oh, well, thank you. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people lived through us vicariously, so
Yeah,
to speak, you know,
exactly,
and
yeah.
really wanted to be out there and run. And that's kind of what's so cool about this whole vintage thing now. Some of the guys that couldn't before are able to come out and at least go run around, you know, do exhibitions and stuff. So it's kind
Yeah.
of fun. And that's a big part of our lives now, all the vintage stuff. So
Well, someone that I have known my whole life, been a big part of my life, is John Walker and his family.
Yes.
And he sure
Yeah.
jumped on the bandwagon
Sure did.
with
know,
you guys.
Yeah, and there's an example. He doesn't drive a boat, you know, but he crews, and he just loves to come crew. He loves to come help us or in any other team. So he's just stayed involved, and he's gone to a bunch of races that Mitch and I have not gone to, and been on other teams, and he just really loves it. So it gets in your blood, whether you're driving or not. And it's kind of a boat is sort of like your football team, like your Seahawks. You know, that's the Miss Budweiser that I
Right.
want to root for and
Right,
into.
yeah.
So.
It's your boat.
So you wrote a book too. When was that?
Let me see, came out in '09. Yeah, it's called Dancing with Disaster, and I just all the stories through the years. I had some people talk me into writing, and I got to admit that when I got wadded up in 2003, I spent some time up at our cabin. I just kind of had to get away from everything, and so that was the time I took to write and write and write. I couldn't type fast enough, and didn't have the talkie thing going on the computer yet enough to keep up with my BS. So
Didn't have the talkie thing.
Talk to text.
yeah,
Talkie thing. I didn't have that.
really.
That's the official term.
We're technical. We're
Yeah,
technical.
I'm real technical when it comes to that stuff. Oh my God. So anyway, but so wrote the book and had Dave Williams from the museum over there decipher my handwriting and co-wrote it and turned into more of an autobiography. I wasn't into that, but anyway. It sounds
What was
cool.
the name again?
It's called Dancing with Disaster. And
Dancing with Disaster.
yeah, it has
Okay.
to do a lot with growing up here, and the way they structured the book was timelined it as
Yeah.
we
What's
grew
some
up.
of the coolest stories in there?
Well, there's all sorts of stuff. Like one, never throw rocks at beehives.
That's a good philosophy to
So
live
you
by.
seem like somebody who likes to maybe learn things the hard way.
Oh boy, yep. So
I
there
can
were-
relate to that. Anyone else?
Well,
Well, that particular little story was behind bowling alley and Gibson Avenue, and Campbell's had a little bitty orchard up there on the hillside. It's not there anymore. Yeah, that was my first experience. We had pockets full of rocks and decided to throw rocks at the beehives. Well, it chased me down the hill and down this. We were screaming like little girls, and oh my gosh. So it was just one of those educational.
What happens if I do this?
Yeah, exactly.
What's next?
Yeah.
Let's find out.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's the worst?
Yeah, I need to go back and elaborate on some of them. Dad's murder, I touched on that a bit, and should go back and really go back through that. Cause,
That is wild that I never heard about murder in a small town like that. I never heard that.
I remember it being talked about
yeah,
in
yeah.
my family.
But I wasn't here when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So
It was really shocking for everybody for a small town. In fact, I
Yeah.
spent so much of my time consoling everybody else. I had people coming up to me just having a hard time even talking,
Yeah.
It was a shocker. Dad was very charismatic and
He was alone when it happened.
yeah, he was, no, the gal he'd married 6 months before was in there, and then his little stepkid, Johnny, is the one that found him dead in the shop. He was building a place up in Union Valley, and they came up there and shot him, and then split. It took a few years to figure out who it was. It's not really clear yet, but Colton Copeland went to prison for it, and it was the gal that he married. It was her nephew, and they basically hired him to come up and kill Dad because Dad had got involved in some of their business, a trucking deal, and it was borderline mafia stuff, I believe, and Teamsters and so on, and you don't mess with those kind, and Dad kind of did, and I was part of it.
Straight.
Yeah, there's a lot more to the story, so to speak, but we could talk about that another time. but,
Yeah.
it's really
Well, it had to be
beautiful.
tough on you. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, well, I sure got educated on the court systems. Holy cow, man, there's stuff you can and can't say in court, and
Yeah.
just how the whole thing works is very interesting, and eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and until you get directly involved in it, you really can't quite understand it.
When you're your early 20s and it's your dad,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It ripped the heart out, and and then we had just leased the business from Dad, the Marina. He just couldn't do it anymore, and we just took it over, and then we started getting behind, got in debt, and gosh, let me see.
That's a lot.
Oh yeah, I learned that IRS isn't near as bad as state revenue. You better pay your sales taxes on your. Oh boy, I had the old state.
Oh yeah, they start calling.
Oh boy,
Who are the ones you gotta
man.
take care of first?
Yeah, well, I was in a situation where it was getting ridiculous. I couldn't keep up, and there was no use in that. Anyway, this guy came in one day in suit and tie. And, Mark Evans here. Looked him right in the eye. I said, "Nope, he just went to town. What can I help you with?" And I knew what it was. I'm such and such for state revenue. You tell him to call me right away. So I did later. And he says, "I want you down here for a meeting right now." So I went down there, and I walked in the door, and he goes, "If you're Mark Evans, I'm gonna kick your butt." He was a mean guy, man.
Whoa.
Yeah, he wasn't pulling any punches, and yeah, I got my butt chewed on that one. And then he ended up kind of getting to like me, and I like, for instance, I sent him $1,600. $1,400 was interest and penalties. $200 went to the principal. The whole deal. I quit paying after that. I don't care if I say it now. I screwed. What I wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
So this old guy he came back later on, and all he had was his briefcase, and he threw it down on the deck, and he opens it up. All there was a big chrome chain with a lock and an orange card. He basically told me he's going to start locking everything up if I didn't pay my sales tax. So y'all pay your sales tax out there if you're in business.
A small business owner.
Yeah, so more education I got at a young age.
Yeah.
And years later, you're still right on that block.
Yep. Yep. Isn't that ironic?
Doing the Sunset Marina.
Yeah.
We had an adventure there, didn't we?
Yeah, sure did. You sold a lot of slips, Russ, and put up a lot of BS, that's for sure. But it was just ironic that my dad had put all that property in for the Apple Cup races. And then in 1960, the whole lawsuit with the three fingers and all that stopped everything.
Yeah.
And I got to run around the country most of my life chasing the boat racing, and then, wanted to settle down and get a real job. And that came up, ironically. And you were out there busting butt, selling slips, and it worked out great.
Yeah, I think I told him to call you. I said, I know a guy. Knows a little bit about boats.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we closed almost 96 slips in 24 months.
Did you? Yeah.
In the first 2 years when we sold it,
It took about 7 years to sell them all later, but they all are finally sold. And so it's ironic. I was just down there this morning again. We have 25 boats floating in there, and we got to check them every day and make sure they don't sink. So, and every day I come down there, I think, geez, Louise, here I'm back in this spot after all these years of running around.
I think I had the first boat to sink, didn't
Yep, you did, Russ.
You and me are quite a team, buddy.
Yeah.
Proud moment.
Wait, your boat actually sunk?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is my whole thing. No boats are going to sink on my watch down at Sunset Marina. So I walk in one morning and I scan the whole place. I'm like pretty intense sometimes. I look and I see something down in Russ's slip, and I couldn't focus until I went like this. I went, oh, his boat was hanging off the ropes, and it was
Still tied up?
Yeah, still tied up. You did
Good
good.
knots.
But there was a little glitch there, and so we got that.
Well, that's the thing about boats, right? There's so many things that can happen.
Oh man,
mine was the little
the bellows, the rubber bellows that
it
come
had
through.
a crack in it because it froze
Yep.
in the winter, and then
Yep.
you don't see the crack, so it's a real slow.
It's just like
Yeah, so that's
hairline
why you
crack or
gotta
something?
monitor all this stuff.
And if you have a bilge pump, it'll pump it out, but then
Your
the battery
battery
will go
dies.
dead. So you got to keep them plugged in. So
Been
the
there,
20
done that.
Yep. So we got,
Been there, done
Yeah.
that.
You
Got to
get-
go turn it on, turn on the boat, pump it out,
Yep.
turn it off, undo the battery, go back the next day, turn it on, turn it
All
on.
the
Da, da, da.
reasons
Oh,
why
it's something.
Frank Phelps does not own a boat.
Come on now.
No.
They
No,
are
we're
work.
not
They're
like
fun.
Yeah, they are fun for someone else to own, and we'll talk on.
Yeah, this way you
it's
just have friends that have boats.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, overwhelming if you're
Well, I
not a
tell you.
mechanical person.
There's a local couple here on a winery. One day I saw them next door at the rental boat place, taking the rental boat out. I said, what are you guys doing? He goes, my boat broke down. We want to go out. And, well, cool, the rental boat place is great.
Yeah.
So he came back. saw him a few weeks later, and I said, hey, did you get your boat fixed? He said, heck with that. I sold it, man. If I want to go out in a boat, I go rent one. And I can bring it back. And
Yeah,
Seriously, I'll tell you what, after 30 plus years of having a boat on the lake, it is so nice to call Stacy and get a boat, and I just go out, and then I come back, and none of it's my problem. Not a thing. Not it's snowing and I'm shoveling it off. Not the packing nuts broken. Not nothing. Nothing.
I've had a lot of boats that I've looked at. My kids used a lot.
You knew they were around somewhere.
I knew I had one.
Yeah.
I think I have a
I
boat.
was always working, and they were always playing.
Well, that's playback from when your dad had a boat that you used a lot.
That's true. That's
He
true.
took care of for you.
Comes full circle, does it?
Back when we had that gasoline at the orchard where you could just kind of...
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Boy,
right.
fuel's a little expensive on the lake now.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
No kidding. That does hurt. You got to bring those boats back full.
Well, Tara, so you didn't get a good deal at the boat shows over there? Boat show things.
Can't even tempt me. Can't even tempt
on
me.
now.
My job, if I wanted to use the boat, now this is a parent's best case scenario. If I wanted to use the boat, I had to maintain the boat.
Oh, well, yeah, there you
So
go.
my dad didn't have to do anything, essentially, but he obviously paid for it.
Yeah.
But it was washing and waxing and maintaining and cleaning, and I just had to be ready to pull him water skiing anytime he
There you go.
said, "Let's go."
Heck yeah, good.
Did you ever get into water skiing growing up?
Yeah, so we loved it in the early days. At the Marina, we'd get up early and go ski, and actually I was into Conley skis big time.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and,
what we had too.
Yeah,
We
the Conley
had HO and Conley.
Yeah.
I was a Kidder guy. Remember Kidder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And of course the O'Brien and so on. And, yeah, there was a guy named Ron LaFay that was on the lake here for a
Oh
while.
boy, do I know Ron.
Yeah, so I was a member of the Kana Water Ski Club for a while. I can't find my card anymore, but I went through his course out here years ago, and I actually wrote as a kid, I wrote a letter to Conley and was asking about their ski, and they just started drilling holes in the fins. I wanted to know all about
Yeah.
this. Well, he sent a representative over, and they drilled the holes for me, and then that's where I met Ron LaFay with
that's
Dad.
cool.
Oh,
They took
my
me through the course,
gosh.
yeah. So I skied a couple competitions, and yeah, it was a kick. I
Yeah,
loved
those
it.
are all the people I grew up with.
Is
'Cause
that
when
right?
when we
Yeah.
first started coming over here, we
Yeah.
were staying at Walker's house, who were neighbors
Right.
with LaFaves.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think I heard a story about you and
No,
his
there's
daughter.
no
Yeah,
stories.
pretty sure there was.
There's no stories.
I don't know. It sounds
We
like
were-
we need to hear it.
Yeah, it was before their driver's license. They were out driving around, I'm pretty sure.
Now, I feel like that would be a story we
never
could tell about
happened.
you.
No, we switched it to you for right now.
I will tell you this. I was allowed to start taking the boat out at 12 by myself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, is that right? Well,
Wow.
Good.
I had to, my dad took me out, tested me on all the things, and once he felt like I was good to go, I was good to go. And then I was, maybe driving around the lake
Maybe.
to Walkers and LaFaves, and, I don't know.
Finding out who was out on
Possibly.
the dock.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I went skiing, Mark, about, 7, 8 years ago. I took my son, showed him how to slalom skiing, and I thought he's going to man, you're a great athlete, Dad. That's pretty hard to do. You know what he said to me? That's really nostalgic.
Nostalgic.
You try it, kid.
No kidding.
I'm
No
going to
kidding.
back you up on this one.
That's
Water skiing, slalom skiing is
hard.
hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because I wakeboarded, and the difference between getting up on a wakeboard versus a slalom
Yeah.
ski is like
Mhm.
I still can't get up on one ski. I have to get up on two.
And drop.
Drop the other
It's
one.
hard.
My uncle Gene Edmonds, he had an American,
Yeah.
that red, white, and blue American ski boat.
Oh, those are cool
Those
little
are
boats.
old school, set like a 76 or 77 inboard. And he pulled me for 8 hours. He kept trying to tell me, I was 9 or 10 or 11, just drop a ski. That was kind of how they did it. Start on 2. And none of that ever worked. I finally had one foot out, he said, do that. So I tried that for hours. And he was, to his credit, he was disciplined.
Yeah.
And finally I just went, this isn't working. And I put my
Both feet.
both feet in, and then I could do it. But
Yeah.
a lot of people couldn't do it that way.
So my
They could do it the
history
other
of
way.
water ski boats
Interesting.
goes
Yeah.
like this: shitty. And you could tell how good the boat was based on how many loops my dad had to make in the rope because he step started. He never deep water. He only step started. My dad could ski with his glasses and hat and everything and never get wet.
Wow.
He just started on the beach, and then I turned in and he skied back to the beach.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that, I mean, he
That
barely
was
got
really
wet.
popular, yeah.
He barely got wet. So it was like, you know, we had an early bayliner outboard, 3 loops.
Yeah.
3 or 4 loops, you know.
There you go.
And then we got an IO bayliner. It was like 2 loops.
Oh, yeah.
And then we bought the Supra, which is meant for water skiing, an actual water ski boat. And it was no loops.
No loops.
It was like I had to time it perfectly because when that rope got tight,
Yeah.
I had to hit it.
Yeah, you were going.
And John Walker was notorious for jumping off the dock. He had a dock start, and he would jump into the lake. Talk about timing.
Yeah, that was talent.
You got to hit the water when it's going, or else you're sinking.
Sure.
Yeah, they had
Keep
those.
that tip up too.
Yeah, that was fun. Those were
Yeah.
fun times.
Yeah.
Well, early in the morning at the Marina, I'll see some water skiing still, but it's mostly wakeboarding and stuff now.
Surfing.
I
A
know
lot of
you just
surfing.
don't see a lot of true water skiers out
Slalom skiers as much. Nope.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun sport, though.
Yeah. You ever been in the parasail? Done a parasail? Yeah, that's a good one.
Is it?
Yeah, we had one of the first ones on the lake, and we had a few accidents, but one of the famous ones was we were
Famous.
leaving over by Lakeview Drive, and a
Okay.
buddy of mine's, the Kamaks, they got a brand new American boat. That's
Okay.
what reminded me of that chrome ski hook. Well, Mitch Bogdan, this friend of ours, wanted to go up in the parasail, so we went over to City Park by Lakeview Drive and hooked onto that American. Gordy and I were in the boat and took off, and Mitch Bogdan was flying up in the air, and we got halfway out in the middle of the lake, and a storm hit and started dragging us backwards and flipped the boat. And the last I saw Gordy, he still had a hold of the steering wheel and flung me out. I was going, wow. And I don't even remember, it's just adrenaline. I got back up on the bottom of the boat, and the parasail's dragging us towards the shore, and he's up there. I'm yelling at him to quick release, pull a quick release, and I thought, no, don't do that.
Because then he would be like flying.
Yeah, well, he did. It went cha-wang. I thought we'd find him in Canada somewhere.
Yeah.
Well,
No way.
Yeah, so I dove in the water. Gordy popped up out of the water. I drug him up on the boat, and then I said, I got to go find Mitch Bogdan. And so I swam up, ran up by the Lakeview Drive, and there he was against the pizza parlor. And
Like Company Creek?
Huh? Yeah, Company Creek. Yeah.
Smashed into it.
And he's all cut up on his shoulders and his head, and people are laying on him. He bounced across the park, crossed the highway. Car almost hit him, hit the stop sign, and then hit the pizza parlor. And then the chute billowed up over the roof, and it kept billowing up, and that's what was pulling him into the roof. So I ran over and unclipped the thing. He fell on the ground. His eyes, he just rung his bell big time.
Oh, my
gosh. Yeah, they hauled him off in the ambulance, and then that's when my dad pulled up. Goes, what are you doing there? And I go, just doing a little parasailing. He goes, well, it was Gordon Kamak. They called him the Colonel. He goes, well, Colonel is looking for you guys. You better get that boat out of that lake. So there's a great story about getting the boat out and catching it on
it was
fire.
upside down.
Yeah,
at
it was
that point,
sunk.
right?
Then I go running back to the beach after they took my other buddy to the hospital. There's Gordy hanging onto the tip. And so I went to the marina, and we had an old crane, started up the crane, got it ready to straps in the water, and then we had a boat called the African Queen that my dad had, and got my brother, and we towed it around, got it over, and got it pulled out. But the best part was I had it on a cradle, and I'm trying to get the thing started before the Colonel got there. Well, I had spark plugs out and fuel all over.
yeah.
And when I turned it over, it ignited and caught the thing on fire when he showed up. So right here we'd sunk his boat. Now it's on fire. I'll be right back. Just getting the fire extinguisher. Oh my God.
It's all right.
Yeah. It'll be all good.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. If
luckily-
it could go wrong, it did.
Oh yeah, it did that day. Oh boy. Yeah.
And your poor friend, all across the grass, of
Skipping
City
across
Park,
them.
and then
Been a funny
Guess what
video.
his passion is now? Guess what he does? He
He's-
jumps off the butte. He parasails. He's got the
Paragliding.
paragliding.
Now
And,
that I've done.
yeah, plus the fan deal. But yeah,
that's
his.
fun. Oh, those ultralight or extra
Well,
light? What are
no,
those
he just
called?
has he puts the fan on his back and runs. He's got the parasail, so it's a powered, paraglider,
so
whatever.
he has
Keeps
a little
him
control
going.
of where he's headed too.
Yeah. But that's his passion now. After.
That's
That is-
crazy.
Got a little
That's
taste
really
of the pizza
fun to do
parlor, and he's
that.
like, I'm in.
Yeah,
I
he
like this
figured
game.
he didn't get killed that time. I had another one that's in my book. What's it called? The Summer Blossom Jump. I unfortunately drove off a cliff up there in a 650 Triumph with a kid on the back that was in the Big Brothers program. we sailed off over 100-foot trees, lived. Yeah, he showed up about 30, 40 years later. Hey, Mark, remember me, man? I was the guy that was... and so guess what? That kid's, his passion is motorcycles, and he said the same thing. Well, I didn't get killed with you. I figured out the heck I'm good to go. So
you're a good conduit for
my
not getting killed.
I feel like you're like a cat with like 9 lives or something. You know?
No, this book I wrote, there's about twice as much we didn't put in there that we should someday.
Someday.
Yeah, you need to
No
do
repercussions.
a volume 2.
Yeah.
Sure.
Get it all written down.
Now,
God.
now you can do that little voice thing that helps you record it. So
Yeah, the talkie thing should. I hear they work
thing. I'm
pretty
sorry, the
good
talking
now.
thing,
So
not the
yeah,
voice thing. The talking
have to
thing.
try.
Little walkie-talkie thing.
Talkie thing is there.
Yeah, I
is
heard
in
it
place
is.
now.
So did you ever have to talk Mitch down, or did Mitch have to talk you down most often?
Mitch was real quiet, and the more I think about little shit, I think he instigated a lot of stuff. He's always so innocent, and I just want to get into trouble. But I kind of think back now and look at him, and go, But anyway,
He planted the seeds, and you just took it and ran with
Kind of
it.
like the second guy that does something gets caught.
But I will say, when we were really young, he was really small. He's one of the guys he didn't grow till later, till we got out of high school. And no, I was basically getting him in a lot of trouble and stuff too, and smacking him around a lot. And then I graduated and left town, came back a few years later, and Mitch grew. Yeah, I didn't mess with him no more after that.
Paybacks here and there.
Oh boy, yeah, it took me. I didn't go the third round. I got in a fight with him a couple times. I thought, okay, this is a little heavy. I guess I better not do that anymore.
Yeah, that's not good.
But
He's a great guy.
Yeah. He's a great guy. Good
Mitch.
mechanic. And just like last weekend, we both spent a good time together
Yeah.
up racing snowmobiles. And
Nicole,
so
you met Mitch up at Tom Burnett's place
Oh,
at the
yeah.
end of the driveway, and his wife.
Okay, cool.
It's a
Yeah.
beautiful
Looks like
spot.
him, but
Oh.
taller.
Yeah. Fun.
Good guy.
So you have some good stories at Sunset. How you've been there now? What, 7, 8, 9 years?
8 years going on 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. We it's been pretty cool. This last year was pretty smooth. Been pretty chaotic through the years trying to get the rest of them sold and get everybody to stick to the rules, and so on, so forth. But yeah, it's been pretty good. Saved 7 boats from sinking last year, though. Yeah, so someone needs to be down there all the time. And
Is it all different things, or is it like?
yeah. One day I'm walking by this one boat and I hear, "Wham!" It's a big dual engine boat, and what the heck? And it's just vibrating. I get in and man, I could smell the smoke. The outdrive tilt motor just stuck, and must have been running all night because I opened up the bonnet and there, shoot, it was smoking the tilt motor. So shut everything down. And then this last year, last winter, it was pretty cold and some of the pipes froze and didn't get the heaters down low enough for the inlets in the boat. And then when it starts thawing, it'll start sinking. So that's my big deal, is a visual to check all the water lines, and I can always remember where the swim steps are, and if they're underwater, obviously stuff's going down. And we've got a big new houseboat out there right now, and it's a unique design where you can't see the pontoons. So I've got numerous
I think
calls.
I called you on that one.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, that's right, you did. Yeah.
Somebody called me, and I called you, and I was like,
yeah.
why are you calling me? I haven't been there.
See the pontoon.
No, it's a quadruple pontoon boat, and they
looks like it's
ran
sinking.
the skirts way down, and then these thin windows go right down low to the water, and then the outboard's down low. So if you drive by the marina and you look out there, it looks like it's sinking. It's really low.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's a unique boat.
That's
and
interesting.
yeah, but we've had some really interesting people, and it's fun to see people get up out of their boats in their jammies and they're all messed up going, where's the bathroom? Don't look at me.
Never had any alcohol issues. People
No.
with alcohol never an issue.
No.
Alcohol in boats? That's weird.
Never. That's
Well,
never
Mark,
a
you got
problem.
that personality, though. You're hard to get mad at, and you're really patient with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you do a great job. And
Well, thank you.
people
Appreciate
should
it.
appreciate you,
Yeah.
because that's not easy.
No,
You do out there.
I've had a few that I've had tune up. I got pretty mad and gave them the what for, but it was, they kind of had it coming, and then the cool part was next day they go, "Oh man, I'm sorry, dude."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, just do what I say, and we'll all be good here."
I know a little something about boats.
Yeah.
So
I've got a book you can read
Yeah.
if you need to get
Yeah,
the
no kidding.
stories.
Not judging. Not judging.
Yeah. The best one was wife and daughter and husband. I don't know, CEO, it don't matter to me where the hell he came from, but he was jumping me and just being a jerk, so I let him have it. And I kind of tried to pull him off the side. I don't like to do this in
Yeah.
front of everybody. And anyway, the next day he came in, and man, his wife was just grinning from ear to ear, and he goes, "Hey, boss, okay, come check my boat. I did what you told me to do. And he was calling me boss.
Yeah,
I think she
right.
got a big old kick out of that. He's the boss, man. But not at the marina.
She probably told him that night, you're not going to do that again.
Yeah. Well, I think he figured it out. We had a little talk. So every once in a while, that's got to happen.
Well, if the cops aren't called, you did all right. You know,
Yeah.
Nobody got hurt.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Hey, you know what? We've got river otters in this lake.
Yes,
And
we
they
do.
are- Yeah, and a lot of people did not
didn't know
believe
that,
it.
yeah.
Oh man.
Oh,
they've
yeah.
So,
I need
Yep.
yeah.
Educate me.
Ed,
yeah, so
No
river
knowledge.
otters, you know, like otters. You see otters, those
Yeah.
cute otters. Well, a lot of them are usually saltwater, but we have river otters up in this
Yes.
lake. And
They used to swim by my house.
you really, see, how many
Yes.
years ago?
Oh, well, my whole life.
The one down at Trow, or up here?
My
in the lake?
parents' house on
Yeah,
the lake.
Yeah, no kidding. See,
Oh yeah, my whole life.
Wow, a lot of people didn't realize that, and so I finally put up a game camera and saw him out in the dock, and of course they poop all over the dock. There was
They're like a
murder.
little bit smaller. I mean, they're smaller than you'd imagine them to be, but that same sleek
Yep.
head, and you just see them
do
like this on top of the water. You know, where Petersons live on the water, there's kind of that little point that was park-like with a willow tree, and it was marshy with cattails and such. And I think there was a lot of waterfowl that nested there, and I think probably that was a nice little safe haven for the river otter.
Yeah.
We didn't see it every summer,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
I've
but you have footage.
seen tons of
Yes,
them.
we got footage
Great.
of him. We got this great
You need to
footage
send
of him
it.
dancing around, peeing and pooping on the cleats too. If you
I
want to see
want-
that,
yeah,
it's
I
really
do.
gross.
It would be fun.
I kid you not,
Playful
they poop
little
right on the top of the cleat where a rope. They don't poop over here. They have to poop where they tied the rope on the cleat. That's just stupid. Yeah, it's
Do they
just
usually just like come out early in the morning or something?
really early. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'd
yeah,
always
night.
see them. I'd always see them at dusk.
Is that right? Yeah, I still haven't.
Because I'm not a
seen one.
morning person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And then you got the geese.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of geese. Shovel a lot of
Does a little
geese.
coyote help?
They did for a little while, but they get used to them really quick. We just found out from some owners on the Three Fingers, they got these big fake swans. They're letting them float, and the geese don't like them.
oh, like a decoy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we got these fake swans, and because they've been coming up on the lawn, so we're working with those, and yeah, so it's
Shotguns work.
Yeah, I know, but no, I tell you what.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
That social media problem we got.
Yeah.
Just
Everybody's got a
kidding.
camera.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, I couldn't use a gun, so I got a slingshot, and I started getting pretty good at it. So I was going down to Kelly's Hardware and buying marbles, and I could hit them with a wrist rocket, but it ends up they would just kind of go, "What the heck was that?" So if I shoot in front of them, they'll see the marble, and then they'll
Allegedly
take off.
hit him. You allegedly hit him.
Yeah,
Alleg-
I
may
did
or
them
may
a few
not
times.
have.
I was getting pretty good until one
He
day.
doesn't care. He does not care. In case you're
This is all
wondering.
good stuff for book 2.
Yeah, there you
Keep
go.
going. Keep going.
But then here's a good one: that great
It's
big
like,
house.
I just Bill Murray Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Seven,
right.
Sunset
Oh
Marina,
yeah, that's what was,
Groundhogs,
there's a whole
Geese,
bunch of stuff was
parallel
going on
there.
that I don't let anybody see.
TNT,
Yeah, yeah.
Dynamite.
Yeah, I love it.
Those.
Yeah.
Right
That's so
before,
great.
before you die, you got to get serious about it. Like you have to blow a couple things up.
Yeah,
You know, whatever you
yeah,
got to do.
Yeah. Well, here a couple summers ago, my wrist rocket and the marbles, one was on top of that houseboat, and it was making me mad. And poor people were cleaned up, so I took a shot. I was gonna hit low. Well, I hit too low and hit the railing on the boat. Well, I heard tick tick pop splash. Well, the tick tick splash was all right, but the pop part got me. So I walked out there. Long story short, I paid $2,700 for one of those nice new windows.
I was just going to
it
say, you got a
ricocheted
window.
and it into little tiny pieces, a million tiny pieces.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they were calling me Deadeye and hot shot and all this. So I don't shoot marbles anymore either.
Yeah.
Had to retire the slingshot.
Yeah,
hang
that
it up.
was it. That was too much of a pain to replace that window. You know, it's not easy to get windows ordered in on a boat that's floating and get it installed while it's floating.
Oh,
You
we
know,
don't want to hear your sob
yeah.
stories, Mr. Hydroplane Builder. Right? Come on. Come
Well-
on. I build my own cockpit. He's complaining about a window.
Yeah. This was a couple years ago. I don't want to do all that building anymore.
You'll have to commiserate with the Wapato Point people. They apparently have big geese problems.
Oh,
as well.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
They've
Down
tried
there.
everything, I think.
They probably don't have a lot of rules either.
Yeah. Well, they have a situation where you can shoot the geese during hunting season as long as one of the guys have a license and doesn't get too carried away. They're working a deal. I've heard something about it, so I'm thinking about it. But as long as we have a lot of people running around, it's not as bad, so.
Or is like the square footage is significantly different. If like a whole flock.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I have the turkey still there.
Yeah. I'm sure.
There was a big turkey on
Really?
Wabata Point. Oh yeah, people were feeding it like chips and stuff. It'd come up, and if you fed it once, it'd come back the next day because it would be like, "I know you're gonna feed me." And it wanted food. It became popular this summer.
That's interesting. They will come back. Yeah, come back. Fun stuff.
When you were at the marina, you're there a lot. Do you mind getting all these calls? I mean, you're kind of the go-to guy.
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. I love being able to steer people the right direction and not mess up their day, so to speak.
I think that's something that you're so selfless that way. I've called you I don't know how many times. When I'm trying to sell, when I was selling. I mean, we sold what, like I said, 96 out of 168 in 24 months.
Right.
So that was when we were down there a lot, and you were a big part of how that team worked. And we had a good time.
Yeah, it was a blast. A lot of times these folks, they just want to kind of focus on the dock and their boat. So I'm not the sales guy. I'm just the guy, going to take care of your boat. So I got to answer some questions and help them. I've helped numerous people decide on what boat to buy.
That's great.
I sent a lot of people to you.
Yep.
I know a guy that can help you. And you've always helped them. And that's what I want to just make sure that people realize how hard you work and how many hours after hours and how many calls. I mean, just countless, and you never complain.
No, that's all right. I'm used to being on call 24/7 in a way, being our own entrepreneur and taking care of our own businesses and stuff. So, all hours it's all right. So, yep. And I like to get down there early in the morning before anybody else gets there and make sure everything's all right and no boats are sinking. And if they are, we had your boat out about 45 minutes before we just bam, like no messing around. And then we have our environmental stuff packages for the oil and so on in case the boat sinks. So I just enjoy it. I enjoy sunken boats.
Who has the business that I can't remember who had that business where he
Jackson Engstrom,
Jackson.
He had a situation he tried, but gosh, luckily, unfortunately for him, but luckily we don't have that many boats sinking on the lake, a couple a year, it's not like.
I think Jackson helped me get mine out.
Yes, he did. He was over, and we just really efficient, got it out of there right away. In fact, the fire department and the sheriffs were too late. They came over and said, "Where's the sunk boat?" And I said, "Well, it's gone, man. We took care of it, so good to go."
What sunk boat?
Yeah, no, about like that.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, no kidding.
My boat has never sunk.
Oh,
Don't have a boat anymore.
Yeah, okay, good. You're all good.
But I never sunk. My buddy's boat sunk. Chris Bishop's boat sunk at Lakeview Marina.
Oh, it did. Oh, oops.
Yeah. But I've never.
Yeah.
And I've been driving a ski boat on this lake, and this lake is not ski boat friendly.
Oh boy, it can be
taking that to
dangerous here.
Stehekin and
After
back.
about 6 a.m.
Crazy. I've had broken windshields. I've had all kinds of things, but I lucked out as far as that goes because this lake can get wild.
Yep.
Fast.
We've had a few that just didn't. Pontoon boats especially, I'll tell them do not go around Wapato Point, stay down this end.
Yeah.
We've had a couple instances where now people won't go back out, and they sold their boat and scared them to death.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just,
Those are hard to sink, though.
yes, but when you're sitting in the boat and you're getting waves clear over and it's knocking you.
I had mine straight down once.
Did you?
I had 40 people in it, just crazy.
Oops.
4th of July, middle of the night.
Oh yeah.
Middle of the
Everybody's
night.
sober.
Oh yeah.
Watching fireworks. And
In the early days, man.
I think old Bill Sargent's kid was driving that time. And I'm Willie. And he hits it and goes straight down. Everybody's floating. Then the boat goes whoop.
Crazy.
Back up. Willie's like, oops, sorry.
Don't do that again.
Spit your water out. You'll quit choking in a little while.
I think the bane of my existence was running out of gas a couple times because that's.
Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
always
there's
a
just
drag.
so many places on the lake to get gas.
And
right?
boat gas gauges, let's be honest,
Don't work very
don't
well.
work.
Nope. We're usually always broke.
Don't work. And it's like, oh, I think I can make it to Kelly's.
Yeah, pretty sure.
So, Mark,
Nope.
let me ask you this. What do you think about this town? I mean, what does this town mean to you?
It's my roots. You know, I've been all over the world. I have chances to move anywhere I want, and every time I come back over that hill, I just go, wow, you know, I live in a beautiful place, and been very fortunate to have, you know, family here and so on, and grow up that way. And you know, one of the stories I'll never forget when we were little kids is driving up through the tunnel and coming over late at night with Dad, and you know, here's Chelan, and here's Manson, and he always told us, man, someday, boys, all the lights are going to touch. They're going to, you know, pretty soon. And years later, one of my boat races coming home at 2 o'clock in the morning, drove over that hill and went, oh, be darned.
We have arrived.
Yeah, there was a couple lights and then finally touched. And I've actually had people say, aren't you just upset as can be that all these people moved here? And I said, no, I knew this was going to happen. And if I was smarter, I'd have bought up more property, you know.
I think we all could say that a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
And Dad tried to get me to buy property and stuff at the time. And again, I go back to this movie we helped make, Madison, and it deals with 1971 back in Madison. It was all repressed, and then I thought, oh yeah, like downtown there was a few businesses that were boarded up, you know, so it was really slow times. And I grew up in the tourism trade, you know, and that's how we depended on our money. And some of my friends that were farmers hated the tourists, but I liked the tourists, you know, and that's what.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, I was involved in the early days of the wine industry when it first started, and real estate also, and apple farming with my dad. And if you think about, if there wasn't the vineyard replacing so many of the apple farmers that didn't make it, the small farmers, you'd have a lot of wheat. You'd have a lot of, you'd see a lot of land that probably, you know, who knows what would have come. It could have, you know, there was a turn there in the 90s where double wides were a big deal. You saw a lot of that coming.
Yeah.
And so the vineyard, the ag concept, the ag tourism concept really helped beautify.
Well, maintain some
Green,
of the beauty.
You know,
Yeah.
it's you know, rather than dirt,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
Or
weeds.
houses that would, you know, when you think about what's going to piss people off more. Is this going to be a neighborhood next to you or a vineyard?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just change is inevitable, and how you manage change, that's the debate. You know, how do you do that? There's a lot of spectrum on what's right and wrong and in between. I just don't, like you, I just don't think judging other people. I mean, first of all, you like it here, so you can't get pissed at somebody else for liking it too.
Correct, yeah.
You know, and
How many people have said the same thing that he just said
All of them.
when they drive in,
Oh, off that.
right? I mean, Carol Uhl said
Never.
that's how she knew she was going to move here someday,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Or
I mean, I
naps,
feel like
either
almost
or.
everybody has said the same thing. It's that moment when you come in the coulee and you're like, whoa.
Yep.
You're not real. I don't know if you're on social media much, but one of the things that I think is interesting is on social media you can see people bitch about a lot of negativity, right? There's kind of a bandwagon mindset, and yet in real life I don't see it much. I think everybody's pretty nice to most everybody. For whatever reason, there's this. I'm going to throw a dart at you from, you know, online or on
Yeah,
Facebook.
behind my computer.
Yeah, like, you know, yell at the referees but never put on the uniform. I mean, but when you get away from social media, and if you just shut it down for a while and you don't even look at it, the people to people, I think the vast majority of people are nice people.
Oh,
Yeah, oh,
Sure
for
are.
sure.
100%.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as negative as you might if you just focused on some of the websites that have just kind of been toxic, you know, where there's just turbulence. But really, I don't see it.
No, I enjoy stopping down at different restaurants and pubs downtown and meeting new people, and that's a comment I get. A lot of people are so nice around here, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Good.
just the way it is, and
Yeah.
the way we like to be, you know. So
I always relate it to how many people wave at me and I wave at when I'm driving around, when I'm home, versus when you're just out, you know, other places.
And at the same time, I can sure appreciate it. You know, like I've talked about it many times. My dad didn't like tourists. He just wanted his town back. Well,
yeah, more tradition.
didn't dislike the people. He just didn't want the change. Knew it was inevitable. But if you could freeze time, I mean, if we could go back to the 80s, we had a good time in the 80s. I mean, it was a beautiful place to grow up. And, you know, if you could just freeze time, great. But that's just not realistic, obviously. So we're fortunate that we have something that can diversify us a little bit. Or we would be like so many towns in the Midwest, so many towns in these farming communities that are boarded up. They do
Yes.
become ghost towns.
Without the lake, we are a sad case, like a lot of
it's
other
tough.
towns.
You know, commodity farming
It's
is
a gift.
tough.
The lake is a gift.
It sure is. We don't have large manufacturing plants, you know, and we just kind of can't in this area in a way, and that's a good thing. So it keeps it. And I know some people get mad at the rules and regulations, but growth management, you got to manage the growth, you know, and like you say,
do.
and it's interesting.
It's challenging. There's like 7 governmental agencies now, and they all have a say, and they don't always agree. And they don't always communicate, and so it used to be, to me, like the supply constraints when you're in developing. You might look around and go, oh, there's thousands of acres to develop. There's not. You know, by the time you're done with zoning and infrastructure and topography and then the governmental agencies.
Yeah.
I mean, we're cut by a glacier, so it's kind of hard to build on some of this stuff. So at the end of the day, we have a supply. One of the things that's really fascinating is about 88% of the land in Chelan County is owned by the government.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you start with 12%, and then you go topography, infrastructure, zoning. Then you add the governmental regulations, and you're down to about this much left.
It is finite.
And so all of a sudden people will wonder, well, why is it so? Why do these developers only do X instead of this? Well, a lot of it's based on the costs.
Yeah.
And
Why have things gotten so expensive?
Yeah, and so this is the concept of supply and demand, right? Where if you never want to see another house built, guess how much the homes are going to be that are built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's this balance between understanding supply and demand and working with people to have smart growth, not growth that's out of control or pure capitalism. But there is, I mean, I'm personally involved in some really exciting things that I hope by the time I'm done with my career, it might be another 20 years, but hopefully I can say that we helped provide some essential worker housing. And what I mean by that is some pride in homes in nice neighborhoods where the haves and have-nots, so to speak, can live cohesively together, where the wealth of the community can stay in the community. I mean, that's kind of the mission.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy thing to do.
No, not at all.
I mean, and
you got a small part, or big part to do with the marine business, you know, and giving folks access to the lake without a big old hassle.
Well,
you
and
know,
look at the excuse me, bitch fest that started. I mean, you know, we were like ruining the lake, not we, you know, but I mean, that was ruining the lake. And so, you know, change again and people hating on it. And
I looked into it, and it was a really small percentage, so I tried to brush it off and just continue on. But we've ended up with a great place to park your boat.
Totally.
And,
It's amazing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
take
And
care of
again,
it.
that change is inevitable. You got all these people, and where are you going to go? How are you going to, you know, where are you going to keep your boat? Everything's full up, and
I got married there too. I think I was the first wedding, wasn't it?
Yeah.
First boat sank, first wedding.
Good
Checking
job.
a lot of boxes.
wow.
Hey, but I'll tell you what, I'll never forget the look on Audie's face when I told her there was a boat race that weekend. all the noise, you know, so we literally, I got with the...
You did, I remember.
Yeah, I
Mark.
stopped the boat race for half an hour, man. And I was, you guys
What I'm talking about.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I'm going, man, hurry up. The guy said...
You didn't tell me there was a boat race for us. Details.
Yeah, forgot about that one.
Yeah.
It'll be all right. Let's call Mark.
Yeah, I know a guy.
I'll stop the racing, maybe.
For at least half
you
an hour,
should've-
we can say I do, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, and you just picture all the people on the other end. I go running into a driver's meeting saying you can't race for 1.5 hours when I tell you, you know, after they've done all this work, they've come over and their adrenaline's going, you want us to stop for half hour for Russell's wedding. You're right.
I think I owe them all a beer. Hey guys, buy a beer next time.
The funny part was they were supposed to wait for my call, and it was exactly 30. Well, right when 30 minutes would click like that, I'm going, hurry up, Russ. You know, you guys were you're almost done with your thing. You were pretty much done. And I went to grab my phone, and I heard, wham, boat take off. They didn't wait. It was right on the dot.
They gave you 30 minutes. That's all you're getting.
Well, that was a special day. You know, Bill was our officiant.
Yes.
And, you know, he passed away after that.
Yeah.
So that was a very special day.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, you know.
Yeah,
And
Bill was a great
I've
guy.
had friends that die, and it's a weird deal.
Yeah,
You know, it's, but that was a special day, special moment with my friend.
Yep, they're pretty cool.
He did a great job.
Well, not to pitch the marina, but it is open to the public for rent. If you ever want, anybody else want to do something down there, you don't have to be a slip owner anymore, and it's
that's
available
nice.
and go through.
It's a beautiful spot.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well,
It's
and
a
that
nice
pier
building.
is a public pier.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize that you can go out, walk out there. You can't go on the marina, but you can go out on the pier.
On the breakwater and
On
go
the
clear out
breakwater,
there,
yeah.
sure. And you know, this whole thing, I just went through with the planners this last fall about the new sidewalk going from town out to Lakeside. So that's all going to get built.
wow.
So there'll be a real nice walkway the whole way out there, and you can turn and come in our
Wow.
way too. So
And
that's
there's also a
all
pump out station for the public that's at the breakwater. A lot of people
Yep.
don't know that.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's all public benefit. I mean, that was all part of the negotiations when we were early on. You know, we had to sell, we were kind of given the task to sell or reserve 80 before they would do it. So it was a gamble. Like we had to spend a lot of time and get a lot of slips, 80 slips reserved before they go punch it in.
Right.
That's why it was, you know, you could spend a lot of time and not get paid.
Yes, that's yeah.
And there was some confusion because it is locked up. The way it was set up with the grant and so on, that myself or Levi have to be there and unlock it and help you pump out. And we put everything away, and that's why it's so clean and tidy and runs all the time. So, you know, if you come in late at night, it's not open, but we're there all day, every day, you know, available. So.
Nice.
Yeah, and like you said, you're so willing and selfless to take the calls. I mean,
Yeah,
you
all right.
encourage people to call, you know, get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Again, it's like there's another side to everything, right? So when
Yeah.
you are going to judge something, you know, I just ask people, like, maybe look into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't read the headline on Facebook. You
Yeah.
know, maybe
Yeah,
just maybe look into it. There
Well,
might be more to it.
that's part of the hope of what we're doing here.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
There's always more to the story, right?
Yep. You know, it's fascinating. Another thing, not to go down this rabbit hole, but change. You were talking about change, and our lake is changing. And worked with Phil Long and his group, and they have a probe out off the dock there to monitor the water quality. And I'll never forget. He said it cost thousands of dollars, and it was the first one they'd ever tried, and it came out of Europe. And they got the data out of the lake, and they sent it back to Europe, and they said, well, something's wrong. There's no pollution in here. And so guess what? Our water is so darn clean.
Oh,
Yes.
is this the Keep Chelan Blue or Keep the Lake
Yeah,
Blue?
Phil
or,
Long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so anyway, that's the positive note. That's the
so
positive
cool.
note. But the lake is changing, and they've been finding some things, and they finally got a drone to go down way to the bottom, and I finally got to see the bottom of the lake, you know, through this
Wow.
drone, and they're going to do some more. It's pretty cool. There's not much down there because it's so cold and clean, but it has changed. There's some microbes or something happening. Now, the one bad part is that, you know, if you don't wash your boat before you bring
Yeah,
it
I was
in,
going to
you're
say,
gonna
is
bring
this
in-
because of the
Yeah,
boat washing?
yeah.
Because
I've
I
already-
know there's some
yeah.
sneaky Sams that
I'll-
just
I'll-
dump.
I'll boot you right
their
out of the marina.
boat in.
I've had a couple come in all crappy, and I booted them right out. and said,
Well,
"Go
that's
clean
one
it."
of my concerns about the boat launches, that they're not monitored in the summer when it's
Right.
so busy. And I mean, sometimes it might just be ignorance. You don't even think you need to do that. But if you've come from the river or Lake Sammamish, ugh.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
You come from anywhere.
Yeah, I had one guy. He felt really bad. I was kind of. I can always be in a happy mood. I wasn't in a good mood that morning. I kicked him out, and he apologized all over and said, "Oh, he didn't even think," and he went and washed it out.
Yeah,
But,
I think that's a lot of the case. They just don't know.
Well, and
Right.
some of the rules in real estate development too that make a lot of sense are, you know, when you're doing soil tests for septic systems, some of these septic systems that are 50, 60, 70 years old, there's a reason why they make you do what they make you do now with conventional pressurized distribution systems, or these old, you know, you put a bunch of rocks in a barrel. I mean, some of the stuff does leach into the
Oh,
lake
yeah.
and does eventually make its way there. So, you know, I've talked to some people that are pretty into it, and there are some issues.
Yep.
That and that's the kind of stuff in real estate development that I really care about. I would never try to cut corners like that. I mean, we want to keep this asset
Yes.
clean, and I don't like working with people that don't like that. You know,
Right.
because some of these rules are good rules, and they come to be a rule for a reason.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, there's people pressing envelopes, and then there's people pressing envelopes that are not so good.
Well,
So-
fortunately, I've been around boats enough. I can tell a boat that's still got the old pump out. You can pump your sewer right into the lake. So we've got these little red tablets that I throw just before I put the cap in. I'll throw it down the poop tank, and they'll go, "What's that for?" And I go, "If you pump this out in the lake, that red dye is going to come out, and it's going to stain your whole boat, and it's going to stain the water, and you're going to be busted."
Yeah, I'm gonna know.
You should see gulp. I've got a feeling, oh boy. So we do that.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Does it really do it, or are you just
Oh
tricking
boy,
them?
does it ever!
Oh.
And just to prove it, every once in a while, I got to put gloves on because it's just a powdery little pill you throw in the tank. And I'll go watch this, and I'll take the hose and I'll just put it on my gloves, and it just, It's so condensed.
I want that for kids peeing in the pool.
I was gonna say, you thought that was a real thing when you were a kid.
I did.
Sneak into the caravan
I'm
pool.
thinking, oh gosh, my kid's getting to the age where he's gonna start pushing it, and he'll have friends over in the pool, and how can I really scare him?
I remember sneaking into Walker's pool. I think John Walker owned the caravel back in the day. Didn't he?
Or was it Wally Karpiak? And it was before Walker Caravel when I got busted the first few times.
Sneaking into the caravel.
Depends on what year it was, but it was Elmer and John for a while.
Yeah, in the 70s, late 70s.
Yeah.
And they'd always say, "Oh man, you pee in that pool, it'll turn green. You'll be embarrassed." Oh, BS.
Did you test it?
Probably. What are you gonna do when you're 10?
I don't know. Get out and pee in a bush. Hopefully.
Probably jump in the lake. I don't know.
There you go.
It's Russ. Did he test it? It's
Hey,
Russ.
what do you think? I got Mark Evans here. I'm like Mother Teresa.
Yeah, right. That's a debatable subject. I got a feeling.
He was even trying to call me out.
Mark's good at turning the tables.
Yeah, exactly. I heard a story about you.
Subtly.
Jen and I were angels.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
All
the
you
story.
white
We're
girls.
sticking to it.
Here, I'll tell you the only thing I'll say is this: if we did something, we didn't get in trouble.
Oh.
I got in trouble.
Oh, is that right? Oh.
Yeah, that girl.
You're the fall girl.
She just I don't know. She just did not seem to get in trouble like I got in trouble. She might get a Jennifer, and I got a you're grounded for a week. I'm thinking, this is what the heck? I do not have the good end of this deal. But she was older, so I still followed and listened.
And you're the stoic person you are today.
Oh, is
From the
that?
discipline.
Oh, okay, okay. All right,
Just
let's
like
go
Des.
with that.
Des never got in trouble.
Let's go with that.
Nope.
Yeah, pretty.
Never got caught.
Yeah, that's
I
more
was in
like
trouble
it.
when I grew up.
That's part of it too. We got to get good at not getting caught.
Yeah.
I mean, don't do bad things.
Well,
Listen to your
know,
parents.
the trial house where you live there in the corner
Yeah.
in town. It was 1982 or 3, and it was after midnight. My wife she was bartending and stuff. We came down. Well, we were all down there skinny dipping and having a great
heck
old
yeah,
time.
you were. I did
Imagine
that same thing.
Yeah, well, anyway, she just got there late, and she looks over, and we're all down there naked, and she started to run back to the house, so I went to chase her back to the house. Well, I ran right in front of a car, and it was a cop. And I didn't stop, man. I wasn't going to stand there buck naked talking to this cop, so I just kept running, went and got my shorts on. Well, I tried to keep him over on that side of the street by the house.
Yeah.
And he goes, no. And we walked over, and this is the best part. He shined his flashlight down there. There wasn't a soul. They were all hiding under the dock, but all his clothes and beer bottles and wine
Hanging
bottles
on
were
the
top
grass.
of the dock. It was great. It was one of our times we got busted, and the cop was having such a hard time keeping a straight face.
Yeah.
But he said, "You guys are too loud. Your voices are carrying up the lake." And remember, there's a lot of good stories about.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that because I would try and sleep, and everyone's coming home from the bars and walking and jumping in and
Yeah.
jumping off the new bridge. And
Yes,
it
exactly.
was,
So in your
it's
20s
a good time.
and party days, what were the bars that you frequented? We had
Dale's
Bill Nickel
Tab
here.
and
Dale's Tab,
the
yeah.
Legend House, they called it at the time.
Oh,
Legend
God.
House.
yeah.
Bill was just telling us about it, dancing, closing it down.
Yeah,
Do you,
yeah.
do you
Dance would be
remember
fun.
the Uncle Bub's? Because that was a
Yes.
big.
Oh, yeah. That was a great time.
We were going through all the old restaurants that used to be
And the
in
Chinese.
Chelan.
Sure,
What
sure.
was the Chinese restaurant called?
Well, wait a
I
minute.
don't know.
Time
I can't
out.
believe you guys had a Chinese
All we
restaurant.
talked about is Chelan, though.
Oh, there was.
Yeah.
Cats and Jammers
Oh, yeah.
was
Oh,
a
yes,
jamming
yeah,
place
uh-huh,
back then with
It was.
dancing and coming by boat
Live
and
music.
Sure, yeah.
I started working at Cats and Jammers when I was like 12. To
Oh,
12 or
did you really?
My dad took me down there and said he wanted Bill Marketich owned it at the time, 12 or 13, because I remember like Tim Dodge was a cook,
oh yeah.
Ken that was married to Julie Hahn,
Uh-huh.
no, not Julie Hahn, Julie Hahn, or was her sister maybe? No, Julie Hahn. It was Ken and Tim Dodge, and I was like 12 or 13 maybe, and my dad goes down there in his green truck and says, "Hey, I need to talk to the manager." And I think Bill, the manager owner, thought he had done something wrong. My dad was pretty serious about
Everything.
because it was a big time party place in the 80s, right? And he goes, "My son's too slow in the orchard. He needs a job."
Is that right?
And he goes, how old is your son? He goes, how old do you need to be? He goes, guess he's hired. It's Indian. I don't know. No rules. I don't know. So I started washing dishes. And I had to awesome. I saw some things at that place. 12, 13-year-old clean until 2:30 in the morning.
I worked there when I was in high school too, and Tim was the manager at that time.
Well, you see all those cooks they were doing kamikaze shots by about 9:30, and they were clean it up,
and,
kid.
Ron LaFave and my parents and Dick Johnson, they were all down there.
Wally Peterson.
Partying and dancing. And
there's two things I remember. It'd be funny to watch everybody get back in their boats, and bumper boats, trying to get home because that fed all the people on the lake. Got there by the boat, right? Like crashing and hooting and hollering, and, yelling. And then I always laughed. I'd get out of work. My dad would be waiting for me. That was the downside of getting me that job. He had to pick me up at 2 a.m.
Oh, geez.
And he never missed it. And I'd climb up over the pool that was locked, and I'd jump in the pool, and the grease would just come off.
No way.
And I bet every day this pool guy's like, what the heck is happening to my pool?
Getting all contaminated.
I always had to get home and shower.
It was
after that job.
You imagine out there in the back cleaning, man. I remember Easter was the worst because there was like 400 of these little egg things, and you had to clean them out by hand. Sitting there in that little. I don't know how many dishes. I washed dishes for like 3 years.
Wow. Jeez Louise.
But it wasn't thinning apples. So
exactly. Yeah.
It was,
but it was sucking at thinning apples.
That was pretty bad. One tree's fine. You have a whole orchard. That's like,
that's a different story.
You go to bed, you dream little green apples.
Maybe you needed Mona and her sister in their bikinis to motivate you, like they were in their orchard.
Yeah, that was a good plan. Should have worked for Gary Miller. Instead of bringing me to Casting Jam, you should take me to the Miller's house.
You'd have worked harder.
13? Heck yeah.
That is the different deal about growing up around the lake in the summer in bikinis and bathing suits, everybody having a good time,
Well, people don't now. We didn't have phones on cameras, so I'm glad that was the case.
Yeah.
I am also glad.
Yep.
That's how
Uncle
you don't
Bubs,
get caught.
speaking of that, I brought a camera into Uncle Bub's one time, and he swatted it out of my hand.
I bet.
No, in the early days.
Bad business. 1 hour photo.
No.
Blackmail material. Well, Mark, you've been a good friend a long time, and like I said, your mom's been very special.
Your whole family is just
Mitch is
great
just
people.
If I can ever do anything for you, ever just
Well, appreciate that. Yeah, no problem. Yep.
Hugely educational for me, listening to your story. I learned, like I said, I've always known of you and your brother and your family, but I learned a lot.
Those Evan boys.
Those Evan boys. Boy, that's an Evan.
Still hearing it. We're still saying it. We're still hearing it.
For sure.
So keep going, okay?
Yeah, well, we will.
Thanks for coming out.
You bet.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
I appreciate it.
Thank
That's
you.
for sure. Yep.